It started as a harmless moment, a glance, a touch, a smile meant to mean nothing, until the day it quietly became the one thing I could no longer ignore. The story opens on an early autumn afternoon, warm light spilling through her suburban living room windows, the kind of brightness that makes floating dust look like tiny falling stars. The narrator, a 22-year-old man, arrives at her house for a simple reason, dropping off a file he promised to help her with. Nothing romantic. Nothing charged. Nothing that should have felt like anything. But the moment she opens the door, something shifts quietly, invisibly, like a thread tightening between two people who aren't supposed to feel it. She stands there, a 40-year-old woman with long black hair and that soft, composed confidence she wears naturally. A white V-neck sweater, jeans that fit her in a way that feels effortless, and the faint scent of lavender drifting from her skin. She smiles, not big or dramatic, just warm, familiar, the kind of smile that softens the air. He tells himself it's just courtesy. Nothing more. Inside the living room, sunlight lays across the couch and the wooden floor. She moves with that mature, graceful ease, a gentle sway, a quiet control in every step, and it pulls his attention in ways he doesn't admit to himself yet. When she reaches for the file, their fingers brush. Not a romantic touch. Not intentional. But it lingers for a fraction longer than accidents should. Her eyes lift. There's something unspoken there, curiosity, warmth, a question she doesn't dare voice. She pulls her hand back quickly, clearing her throat, pretending to focus on the papers. He laughs softly to ease the awkwardness, but inside, something flickers awake, a spark he tries very hard to ignore. They sit on the couch, reviewing the document together. Their shoulders are a little too close. Their hands occasionally overlap on the pages. Every time they do, she inhales quietly, like she feels something she shouldn't. The conversation stays safe. Work. Life. Nothing personal. Yet the silence between topics carries more weight than the words do. She glances at him once, too long, too warm, then looks away with a small, almost nervous smile. Her knee accidentally taps his, and she pulls her leg back quickly, murmuring, "Sorry," in a soft voice that betrays the tiniest tremble. He feels it, the shift, the pull, the magnetic tension. A moment that should have been nothing, but somehow isn't. And when he stands to leave, she walks him to the door. There's a pause, a breath held between them. She gently touches his arm, barely grazing his sleeve, but he feels it like a spark running across his skin. "Thank you," she says. Too sincerely. Too slowly. He nods, but part of him wonders why he suddenly wishes he didn't have to leave. He doesn't know it yet, but this small, innocent moment, this nothing is the beginning of everything. Begins the day after the nothing moment, when everything still feels too fresh, too close, too easy to replay in the mind. The narrator returns to her home under the excuse of dropping off an updated version of the document. But underneath his calm voice is the truth he won't admit. He wants to see if she felt what he did. When she opens the door this time, her smile is softer, warmer, almost relieved. Her long black hair is still loose, falling over her beige cardigan, but today her eyes carry something else, hesitation wrapped in quiet longing. She steps back to let him in, her movements slow and careful, as if she's afraid of stepping too close to a line she pretends isn't there. Inside the bright kitchen, sunlight dances on the counter as she pours coffee. Her hands are steady, but her breath isn't. She pushes the mug toward him, fingers brushing his again, just lightly, but not lightly enough. The conversation tries to stay safe again, work, weather, random things. But the pauses between their words are heavy. Telling. Alive. At one moment she turns toward him, leaning against the counter, and asks a question so gentle it almost feels dangerous. "Did yesterday feel different to you?" He freezes. She doesn't look at him. She looks at her fingers tapping the mug, her voice steady but fragile. And he realizes she's afraid of the answer. He doesn't say yes. He doesn't say anything at first. He only steps a little closer, enough that the air between them warms. Enough that she notices. Her eyes lift, and there, in that tiny lift, everything unspoken hangs between them. She clears her throat, breaks the moment, and moves to the patio door. "It's nice outside," she says too quickly. "Let's go out." But the change in location doesn't loosen the tension, it traps it. The bright afternoon sun reveals every subtle detail, the way she folds her arms like she's trying to contain something, the way she glances at him then looks away instantly, the way her shoulders soften when he steps beside her. She tries to talk about something trivial, but her voice dips. He tries to respond casually, but something inside him keeps pulling toward the moment that's growing, the moment they're both pretending not to notice. She finally exhales, eyes fixed on the yard. "We should be careful," she murmurs. He nods. But neither of them step back. And in the quiet that follows, it becomes painfully clear they both see the line. And both are already standing on it. Begins 3 days later, when distance only makes things worse. He visits again, this time because she asked him to look over something small, something she easily could have done without him. The sun is bright, the living room warm with light, but her mood isn't the same. There's a weight behind her eyes, a tightness in her posture, a quiet storm she can't hide. She stands farther away from him than usual, arms loosely crossed over her light blue blouse, gaze drifting to the floor more than to him. He notices instantly the way she avoids his eyes, the way her voice tries to sound normal but slips into softness every time it brushes his name. He asks what's wrong. She shakes her head. "It's nothing," she says with a small, controlled smile. But the smile doesn't reach her eyes. He doesn't push, he just sits on the couch, close enough for comfort, but not close enough to overwhelm. Eventually she sits too, but at the very edge. A small gap separates them, a gap that feels larger than the room. Minutes pass. The silence gets heavier, thicker. Finally she speaks. Sometimes, she begins, voice trembling just slightly, "I think there are boundaries I should remember." He stays quiet, letting her talk. She picks at the cuff of her sleeve, her lashes lowered. "You're kind," she whispers. "And easy to talk to. Too easy. And I don't want to misread anything." He shifts a little closer. Not touching. Just enough that she feels his presence. Her breath catches, not loudly, but enough for him to see her chest rise a little too quickly. The real crack appears when she finally looks at him. Her eyes soften, gloss slightly. Vulnerability pours through her expression, undoing the calm she tries so hard to maintain. She tries to look away, but he asks gently, "Are you okay?" This time, she doesn't hide. Her shoulders drop, her eyes close. "I don't know," she murmurs, and the honesty shakes them both. He reaches for her arm, slowly, carefully, and his fingertips barely graze her sleeve. But that tiny touch unravels her composure. She pulls back slightly, not out of rejection, but out of fear of how much she feels. For a few seconds, neither of them breathe. Then she stands abruptly, whispering, "I need a minute," and walks to the hallway. And he sits there, staring at the sunlight on the floor, realizing something. Her calm isn't cracking because of him. It's cracking because she feels what he feels, and she's terrified of it. Takes place outside her home, not by accident, but because tension finally becomes too strong to stay contained indoors. She suggests meeting at a cafe, somewhere neutral, somewhere bright and public where emotions feel easier to control. The morning sun pours across the tables, the clinking of cups filling the air. She's already seated when he arrives, olive green blouse catching the light, long black hair falling over one shoulder. She looks composed until she looks at him. Then the composure slips. They talk at first, shallow, polite, surface level. But the pauses between their sentences are longer than the sentences themselves. Finally, she breathes in deeply. "We need to talk." His stomach tightens. She looks down at her hands, fingers woven together tightly. "I don't want things to become complicated," she says quietly. "You're young. And I'm me." He waits. "I don't want to mistake kindness for something else." He leans forward slightly. "What if it isn't a mistake?" Her lips part. Her eyes soften with fear, surprise, longing, all tangled together. But she shakes her head. "Feelings like this don't end well," she whispers. The cafe suddenly feels too public, too bright, too open. She stands, grabbing her bag, her voice cracking. This is too much. I can't, not right now. She walks out before he can respond. He follows her into the bright parking lot, calling her name softly. She stops, but doesn't turn around. I'm not rejecting you, she says, voice unsteady. I'm trying to protect both of us. He steps closer. She closes her eyes. She can feel him behind her, feel the warmth of his presence, feel the truth she keeps trying to escape. When she finally turns, her expression is torn. Please, she says quietly, don't make this harder. He whispers, I'm not trying to make anything harder. But his eyes say what he can't. And her eyes say she feels it too. She steps back, just a single step, but enough to shatter both of them. I need space, she murmurs. Just for a little while. The distance grows. And for the first time, it feels like they might break. Begins with distance. 2 days where neither of them speaks, texts, or even tries to pretend things are normal. She doesn't reach out. He doesn't want to push. The space she asked for stretches into something painful. He goes to her house only when she messages, can you drop off the file? Short, polite, distant. When he arrives, the bright living room feels unfamiliar. Cold, despite the sunlight. She stands near the doorway, arms wrapped around herself in a soft blue blouse. Her eyes avoid his like they might burn. He asks if she's okay. She says she's fine. She isn't. Her voice is too tight. Her shoulders too tense. Her smile too forced. She hands him the documents quickly, as if afraid of brushing his fingers. He notices the small tremble in her hands. He sits on the edge of the couch, hoping she'll sit too. She stays standing. The distance feels like a wall. Finally, she breaks the silence. I thought the space would make things easier, she says quietly. But it only made everything louder. He lifts his head. She finally looks at him, and he sees exhaustion, fear, longing, and confusion blended into one fragile expression. I don't know how to stop thinking about that moment, she whispers. He stands slowly. Then maybe it wasn't nothing. Her breath catches. Her eyes flick to his chest, then his face. She tries to steady herself but can't. But if we move forward, what if I hurt you? What if this is wrong? He steps just a little closer, not enough to overwhelm, but enough that she feels the warmth of him. You won't. Her eyes water subtly, not tears, just a sheen of emotion she can't hide. In that moment, she wants to reach for him. She wants to step closer. He can see it in the soft tilt of her body, the way her fingers curl at her sides, the way her breath trembles. But she steps back instead. Not out of rejection, out of fear of how badly she wants not to. I need to think, she murmurs. And he lets her. But as she walks to the hallway, she pauses. Looks back. Just once. And that single look says everything she hasn't yet dared to speak. Begins on her porch in the late afternoon. Sunlight bright, warm, impossible to hide in. She asked him to come. For the first time, she looks ready to stop pretending. She stands there in a pastel pink blouse, hair down, eyes soft but terrified. When he steps up the porch, she exhales as if she's been holding her breath for days. Can we talk? She murmurs. The conversation doesn't happen right away. They sit beside each other on the porch bench, not touching, the bright sun highlighting every tiny expression on her face. She starts quietly. I pushed you away because it scared me. He waits silently. I pushed myself away too. She looks at him now, really looks. Her eyes trace the emotions on his face, the patience, the softness. You're steady, she whispers. And I didn't expect you to be. He moves slightly closer. Their knees nearly touch, and she doesn't pull back. She admits what she's been avoiding, every time you're near. I feel something. Something I haven't let myself feel in years. Her voice cracks. Not loudly, just enough that he hears what she tried so hard to hide. He reaches out slowly, giving her time to pull away. His fingertips gently brush the back of her hand. This time, she doesn't flinch. She doesn't retreat. Her fingers curl slowly toward his, not grabbing, but inviting. Her breath shakes. I'm tired of running from something that feels this real, she whispers. And for the first time, she lets her hand rest in his. Not fully intertwined, not fully committed, but resting, trusting, a beginning. The silence between them becomes warm instead of heavy. She leans just slightly toward him, her shoulder brushing his arm with the softest, most deliberate touch she's given him yet. She looks up, eyes glowing in the sunlight. I don't know where this goes, she admits. But I don't want to pretend anymore. And when he squeezes her hand gently, she closes her eyes, not in fear this time, but relief. Because this is the moment she finally stops running. Begins in the backyard just before golden hour, with sunlight bright and warm across the grass. She invited him, not for help, not for excuses, but simply because she wanted him there. She stands by the garden path in a white summer dress, long black hair moving gently in the breeze. When he approaches, her expression softens into something he's never seen fully before: openness. Certainty. No fear this time. No running. No pretending it's nothing. They walk slowly, talking about everything they avoided for weeks. The doubts. The fear. The hesitation. She speaks with honesty that makes her vulnerable, but her voice no longer trembles. I kept thinking I was too old for this, she admits quietly. Too old to start something new. Too old for feelings that shook me this much. He offers his hand, not grabbing, just offering. She looks at it, then at him. And she smiles, warm, real, relieved. She slips her hand into his. Their fingers interlock gently, naturally, like they've been waiting for the chance. In the bright fading sunlight, she steps closer, her body fitting into the space beside his. He feels her shoulder brush his, her warmth steady and real. She leans into him just slightly, her voice soft. I kept telling myself it was nothing. He rests his forehead lightly against hers. She lets him. But, she whispers, it became everything. Her hand slides to his arm, her thumb brushing the fabric slowly, affectionately. It's not dramatic or rushed. It's slow, warm, intentionally intimate. A quiet promise. They stand there together, sunlight glowing around them, finally letting themselves feel what they've been fighting for so long. No secrecy. No fear. No pretending. Just truth. And the story ends not with a kiss, not with fireworks, but with something deeper. Two people choosing each other after every reason not to.